everyone, and welcome back to my book channel. I'm Amy. Today I have a June book haul for you. I've been collecting these books for about 4 weeks now, so they did push into May a little bit, but I figured I'd throw them in there anyway. I have quite the stack, so let's go ahead and get started. These books are in no particular order. They had already been put away, so I just kind of brought them all back together, and some of them I have read, some of them I haven't. I will let you know which ones I have and what I thought of them, but let's go ahead and get into this because trust me, I have quite a few books. This month I went to Barnes & Noble several times, so there's probably about 6-ish books from there, so I'll let you know which ones I got from there. And the first one I got at Barnes & Noble, and that is Prisoners of Geography, 10 Maps That Explain Everything About the World by Tim Marshall. This is a non-fiction book that discusses how the borders of countries and continents have influenced their history, their political decisions, and the things that happened to them. I purchased this book for not only myself, but also my husband. I think this might be a really interesting read and very eye-opening. I don't read a lot of political nonfiction, but I thought this would be a good place to start because it's kind of broad and covers a lot of different topics. So I will let you know how I get along with that one. Please excuse my dog outside. There's squirrels in the yard, which naturally need to be told to get out of the yard. So that's Loki. I'm sure you'll meet him at some point, but just bear with me on that one. The next book's on my list I heard about from Heather at Bookhaul. I will link her channel down below, and that book is Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. This is a YA contemporary book, which I'll be honest, I don't tend to gravitate towards. I don't gravitate towards contemporary in general, and then especially YA contemporary, just because I sometimes struggle to relate to the kids in these books. But the reason I picked this one up is because it has a really, really interesting component to it, and that is that it has a letter library. So this book is about two people, Henry and Rachel, who used to be best friends but then grew apart when Rachel moved to a different town, and she then comes back to town because she lost her brother in a drowning accident, and she's trying to cope with that, and her and Henry end up working together at his parents' bookstore. And this bookstore has a letter library, which is a section of the library where these books are not for, or library, excuse me, it's a bookstore, section of the bookstore that has these books that you cannot purchase, but you can write in them and leave notes in them and letters, and people have kind of created this sort of community where they communicate with one another via these books. And I thought that was just such a cool, interesting component, and I decided to pick it up. I have read it, I enjoyed it. I'll let you know more about it in the future. But once again, I got this one at Barnes & Noble. A book that I got probably the longest ago was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is a book that I also purchased for both myself and my husband. This is a story about two friends who are in medical school that are studying what happens to a person when they kind of die but then are revived, and the abilities that tend to come with that. And I believe the chapters flip back and forth from when they were in school together and they were friends, and then into the future when they are actually enemies. So I'm super, super intrigued by this book, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I know I just said that I don't normally read contemporaries, but I am trying to push my boundaries a little bit, and so to do that, I purchased The Nest by Cynthia D'Aprix Sweeney. This is a family drama that has come highly recommended by lots and lots of people on BookTube. It actually has a blurb from Amy Poehler on the back as well, so I thought that might be interesting if she's talking about it. And this is the story about a family who has a trust fund they call The Nest, and they are very, very close to receiving those funds. And each sibling has plans for what they want to do with that money, but then a brother, I believe, gets a DUI and kind of brings the ability to get that money into jeopardy, and this is how they deal with it. I'm actually really intrigued by this one, and I hope to like it. This book is a total BookTube made me buy it. I don't think I normally would have gravitated towards it, but everyone's talking about it, and again, I think my husband would really love it, and that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Can we just take a moment and talk about this book jacket? Like, it's insane. And then look at it naked. Look at this naked book. It's a piece of art. I mean, lots of books are pieces of art, but this book is a kind of like thriller that takes place in the future, like of a dystopian type I believe. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that it takes place in various forms, like the story itself, like text messages and emails and different dossiers. And I'm just amazed at how beautiful this book is. Normally the artwork's just on the front of the book, but I would just say that it's just all throughout. Like, there's so much work that went into creating this, and I'm very much looking forward to it, and I have a feeling my husband's gonna get to it before I do because he's super jazzed about it. This next book is probably the book that I am the most excited about, and that is Paris the Novel by Edward Rutherford. Total buzzword for me is Paris. I went to Paris a year ago and absolutely fell in love with the city. Like, and before then I had no interest in Paris, and then you go to the city and it's instant love. It's instant love. And so this book is about Paris, obviously, and it tells the history of Paris through novel form. Are you kidding me? I have recently read a history book about Paris and absolutely loved it, but to hear it told in the form of a story, I cannot wait. It follows various characters throughout various points in Paris's history, and I think this is going to be so good. It's huge, but oh my gosh, am I excited about that because I want to know everything about Paris. And this book is a New York Times bestseller, so I hope that it's really awesome, and you'll definitely be hearing from me about this one. Another Barnes & Noble purchase was A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. I have heard so many things about his book. I think he wrote Britt Marie Was Here, and my grandfather told me to tell you she's sorry. But this one just really called to me. This is about an old man, kind of that quintessential grouchy old man who lives by himself and kind of minds his own business, but everybody knows who he is but doesn't do much with him or talk to him. And he has new neighbors move in next door, a young family with 2 girls, and this is kind of about them getting to know him, I believe. It sounds like such a sweet and simple story, but I have a feeling that there will definitely be tears in it, and I think this is gonna be a good read. This book is a total impulse buy. I was on my way to the register at Barnes & Noble and it caught my eye, and it was only $8, and once again, this one I did specifically buy for my husband, not to say that I'm not interested, but that is Amazing, Fantastic, Incredible, A Marvelous Memoir by Stan Lee and Peter David and Colleen Doran. So this is the memoir of Stan Lee's life told in comic book form. Like, how cool is that? I knew I had to pick this up when it was only $8 because I knew my husband would absolutely love to read it. We are huge Marvel fans. I've never been one to read comic books, but I absolutely adore the movies and the TV shows, and I think the world that Stan Lee helped to create is just so incredible. And I just thought this was so cool. It's such a fun book. It actually comes with a poster in the back that's actually super neat. Here, let me show you. Let me get it out of here. See if it's big enough or not. But if I'm understanding this poster correctly, so you have like the classics, like the Avengers and some other people, Doctor Strange and whatnot, but then at the bottom, I believe this is Stan Lee as a child and then Stan Lee all grown up. I don't know, I just think this is so sweet. I have no idea where I'll put it, but it might go in my husband's shop outside, which is also his man cave. But yeah, just so excited about this. It just seemed like a fun book to pick up, and I think we will both very much enjoy it. I also got on my Barnes & Noble trip Homegoing by Ya Gassi. BookTube has been raving about this story. I don't know when it came out. I know it's fairly recent. Let's see here. It came out in 2016, so only last year. But I have heard so many people talk about this book and how much they loved it and how it opened their eyes to so many things. I'll be totally honest, I haven't read a lot of books about African American families or individuals or their stories, and so I'm super excited to read this and see kind of how the generations flowed and their experiences, and I have no doubt I'm gonna love this one. No doubt. Like I said, I love to learn. This is one. There's gonna be some learning in this one. Super late to the ball game on this one. BookTube has been a fairly recent discovery for myself, but I've always been immersed in the world of books, but I don't know how I've never heard about this one, and that is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. First of all, side note, I'm kicking myself because I purchased this mass market paperback edition, and it's little. And then I saw I remembered what the original publication looked like, and I think I'm gonna have to buy that because it's too pretty, and this is just kind of meh to me. But this is a story about a boy who is the bastard son of a king, and he gets selected to be an apprentice to the assassin and kind of learn that trade. And I know this is the first book in the Elderlings realm, and let me tell you, I love series that carry on with new characters but in the same world because you get to learn more about it. So I have a feeling that I am going to very much enjoy this book, and once again, I think my husband will be interested in it as well. So I'm sure I will be getting to this one in the near future. This next book I purchased is The Isle of the Lost, a Descendants novel by Melissa de la Cruz. This is a Disney Hyperion book, and the premise of this story is it follows the classic Disney villains' children. There are 4 in particular. It's Maleficent, Evie, the evil queen's daughter, Jafar's son, and Cruella de Vil's son. And it is the story of these 4 kids and how they kind of try to get off this island that they were sent to because their parents did bad things. I think it sounds super interesting. The second one just recently came out. I have a feeling that this will be a good, fun read. So I know I was already late on the bandwagon with the Assassin's Apprentice, and I'm totally late to the bandwagon on this one as well, and that is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Rowden. I don't know how I haven't picked this up before. I love mythology. I've always found mythology fascinating, specifically Greek mythology, and everybody just loves Rick's writing, and I don't know how I haven't read anything from him. I think the reason that I told myself I was buying this book is because I knew my husband would love it. He's super into mythology as well and really likes these YA adventure books. But I wanted to read it as well. And so this is about Percy, who gets into this kind of trouble with the gods because they think he stole the lightning. To be honest, I don't know the details of it, but I'm okay with that because I know people love it so much, and I have no doubt that I will too. I found this book at Costco, and the reason I found it there is because this book was published 2 years ago, but it just released its paperback edition, and that is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I've read this book, and it is amazing, and it deserved every single accolade that it received. And it is about 2 sisters during World War II living in France and kind of how they experienced the war. So this book is kind of about the women's war that happened in World War II for the women who weren't in the thick of it, I guess you could say. But this story, I don't even know if there's words to describe the emotions that I felt. I believe the last 100 pages, I just sat on my back patio and cried while reading it. My husband came home and was like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm wonderful. This book is just ripping my soul in half." But oh my gosh, is it so good. Read it, read it, read it. If you're any bit interested in historical fiction or how women navigated and influenced the war, you gotta pick it up. I mean, you just gotta. I might actually do a book review on this one in the future. I have lots to say about it, as do most people, so please, please, please buy this book. This month, I did something I've never done before, and I purchased some books of poetry. Let me just tell you, I've never been interested in poetry before. I took a creative writing class in high school and absolutely despised when we had to write poetry, and I've never really been drawn to it. I don't really have a good reason why. I just never have. But as I've been on BookTube and people are talking about poetry, I was like, you know what? You want to broaden your horizons, Amy, so buy some poetry. So I bought 2 books, and the first is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. I have read this one, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it was a great place for me to start because her poetry is just very to the point, and there's not a lot of... there's symbolism in it, of course, but it didn't seem overly flowery. That's what I'm trying to say. Flowery. But I really did enjoy it. Of course, it took me absolutely no time to read because there's that many words on a page, and I marked several that I really did like. She talks about a variety of issues, mental health and relationships, and her relationship with her mother, and I just found them really interesting and intriguing, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. I would recommend it. The second one that I picked up was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This seemed like a no-brainer because everybody seems to have read this book. And again, a super quick read. I think I read it in less than 2 hours, like an hour and a half maybe. I actually got this one from Barnes & Noble too and came home and was just kind of like meant to like peek through it and ended up reading it right there. And I loved this. She has such vivid imagery and she really pulls at the raw emotions. And one thing I also really liked about it is it has her artwork in it. About every page has a different picture. I will tell you there are some sexual references in this story that are pretty blatant, but they were just so good. I really enjoyed it. I totally understand why people love this book. And again, I do think it would be a good place to start. It talks about a variety of issues, love and mental health and healing. It's split into 4 different sections, and again, I really liked it. Maybe I like poetry. I guess we'll find out. Last but certainly not least is The Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I have read this one. I ate this up and I liked it. And I would probably, to be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed in it because people rave about this book, and I think the story's phenomenal. I totally want to read the entire trilogy, but maybe my hopes were too high. I just felt like this book was rushed a little bit. I think she could have gone into more detail. I think it could have actually been longer, and it's decently long, 392 pages, but not a difficult read at all. But I would recommend it. I think it's worth reading. I think Kel's a super interesting character, but I would have liked to get to know him more. That may be unfair to say because there are 2 more books that are about him, but I think I could have gotten a little bit more from him in this book. But again, totally worth reading. I think my husband will like this one as well. So yeah, pick this one up too. So that concludes my June book haul. I have a decent number of books there. How many? 2, 4, 6, 8, like about 15 books. I mean, that's a lot of books. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it. If you really liked it, please subscribe. I'm hoping to have several videos a week. We'll see how that goes. And I will see you next time. Happy reading. But can we talk about this? Like, can we talk about this? Do you see what happened? It's broken. My bookshelf broke yesterday, just randomly. Snapped in half. The glass snapped. I had so many books on the shelf, the glass snapped. Do I have too many books? No, not enough bookshelves. That's the problem, not enough bookshelves. And maybe shouldn't have glass bookshelves, but it looked so cool in this. This was my great-grandparents'. My grandfather made it. It was a gun rack. And then when Grandpa was done hunting, he made it into a curio cabinet, and I made it into a bookshelf. It's lived many lives, but it broke. So I have to fix that. And another bookshelf. Yeah. Shall we witness something here real quick? Shall we look at this? Look at this. Look at him. He had to knock the pillows on the ground to lay on them. He lives a tough life. Tough.